Good morning, and thank you for joining me in this press conference where the Green Party wants to shine some light on what should be happening at the upcoming G8, G20 summit and what isn't happening. In a sense, this is a story of domestic political considerations of the narrowest kind, trumping global responsibility. As host of the G8 and G20, Canada gets to set the agenda. And I don't think in the entire history of the G8 has a country so misused that prerogative. Given the failure of Copenhagen to achieve negotiations to a deadline, the clear focus of a G8 and G20 before the next climate negotiations in Cancun should be climate. At least it should be very high up on the agenda, and the Harper government has chosen to keep climate off the G20 agenda altogether and has downgraded it at the G8, so much so that the environment ministers of the G8 are not meeting in advance for the first time in many, many years. And certainly G8s in Canada for the last few decades have always included an environment ministers pre-meeting. But again, as host, the Harper government is keeping climate off the agenda. I think that some spin doctors over at Langevin Bloc thought what would be a nice, warm, fuzzy thing, like, say, a blue sweater vest, to improve the Prime Minister's ratings with the groups that don't seem to warm to him, that would do well at the G8 and G20, and thought maternal and child health, something like motherhood, would look good on the Prime Minister. They did this without thinking through the elements of any sensible agenda for maternal and child health. And that has loomed up very clearly in the reaction of our allies and friends in the G8 to the word that Canada would not agree to have abortion funding as part of our maternal and child health program. This is illogical ideology at its worst because it simply won't work. Number one, you must accept that abortion is a clear right of women for reproductive and sexual health right around the world. Number two, if you start trying to dictate our aid can go for this kind of health care, but not for that kind of health care, you are missing the reality of developing world assistance and the kind of very limited primary health care that is available to women in developing countries. There is not a clinic down the road that delivers abortion assistance that you can choose to say, we won't fund that one, but we do like this one over here that helps women deal with HIV and get HIV retroviral drugs and help with prenatal care in case you're HIV positive. The range of health issues for women in developing countries to improve maternal and child health deals with safe drinking water, deals with access to health care, to family planning, to condoms, to reproductive assistance of all kinds, and they're only likely to get that in one place. That's what the Bush administration did with its policy, was by saying no to abortion, they said no to health care for women and girls around the world. And that's what Canada is doing now. These are not divisible issues. You either care about maternal life, maternal health, and child care, and you provide and support the clinics that are there on the ground delivering everything from babies to reproductive health care of all kinds to contraception to advice to talking out loud to women about where they can get a safe and legal abortion to avoid death at the hands of people who deliver abortions that are neither safe nor legal. Now, the abortion debate is one where people can easily be misunderstood. And I know from experience because my comments on abortion have been in the past distorted beyond recognition. To make it really clear, I think the best way of describing this issue is the one summed up by former President Bill Clinton, who said abortions must be safe, legal, and rare. The goal of a health care program is to ensure that women have control of their own lives, that neither through poverty or lack of choice or through lack of rights or balance in relationships do women end up with unwanted pregnancies. In developing countries, and particularly in parts of Africa, we know that rape of women is a routine weapon of war. To talk in these terms about denying a maternal and health care program that will include access to legal and safe abortions, it's so unbelievably inhumane. It borders on the criminal. So Canada needs to be clear, and I need to be clear, and people need to know that the Green Party of Canada supports legal, safe abortions for any woman in Canada who wants one, and insists that our development assistance programs match the reality of the world. Speaking of match, this is one of the finest Canadian NGOs, Match Canada has been delivering the only gender-related development assistance through CEDA for 34 years. It's been funded by CEDA. On Friday, they were told they would be funded no more. Neither is International Fund for Planned Parenthood being funded. So while Stephen Harper claims that he's going forward to put maternal health and child care on a top agenda item for Canada, the G8, we are cutting the funding to the Canadian NGOs that know how to deliver that assistance. These are very dark days for women or for any Canadian citizen who looks at our place in the world and wonders, what are we saying to the rest of the world about what we care about? Le Canada est dans l'embarras une fois de plus sur la scène internationale alors que le gouvernement conservateur refuse de donner des avortements sécuritaires dans le cadre des initiatives pour la santé maternelle du G8. Alors maintenant, il sera difficile pour le G8 d'agir d'une voix et d'aller de l'avant pour atténuer la souffrance des mères et des enfants des pays en voie de développement. C'est incroyable que dans les mois passés de l'échec de Copenhague, que le gouvernement du Canada a refusé d'inclure la crise climatique, c'est une question primordiale. Ce n'est pas dans les horaires pour le G8 ni le G20. Mais en même temps, il a dit que c'est important, le gouvernement de M. Harper dit que c'est important de protéger la santé des mères, mais sans avec les avortements. C'est une position incroyable. Ce n'est pas durable. C'est une position inacceptable pour la vaste majorité des Canadiennes et Canadiennes, et pour le Parti vert aussi. On doit faire les efforts, on doit agir pour toutes les mesures, pour tous les cadres des mesures essentielles pour protéger la santé des mères dans les pays en développement et aussi pour les mères et les femmes du Canada et protéger les droits pour les femmes autour du monde. Thank you, and I'll take any questions you might have.
Commons, before the decision made last week, didn't also vote in favor of the full range of contraceptive options.
Yeah, and I think that motion was poorly worded. I don't think that MPs understood what they were actually saying. There was a certain amount of, I think, disingenuous effort to work against that motion because of its reference to Bush policies, to seize on that language and say that somehow it was inappropriate for the House of Commons of Canada to pass judgments on another country's foreign policy. I think it was most regrettable, I think everyone will agree on that we have seen not only did the Harper government seize on a domestic, narrow political agenda and miss its global responsibilities, but in the same way, when the opposition also attempted to play politics with the issue, it blew up in their face. I think what we need to recognize is that when we're talking about something as important as climate change or ending poverty around the world, protecting women's rights, it's a poor way to show your concern for those issues to play very narrow political domestic games.